Hi, everybody. Just watching everyone trickle in. Just give you a few minutes. Okay, well, we'll get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. Feel free to use the chat and the Q&A so I can see where everyone's calling in from. My name is Jennifer Aldridge. I'm your new chapter and sponsor specialist with SITE, so I'm excited to see everyone today. We have such a treat today. We're going to have a great conversation on value graphics. David Allison from Value Graphics and Leonie Ashford from Tourism New Zealand are here. So first of all, I will introduce David Allison. He's going to start us off today. We're fortunate for him to be joining us. David Allison is a human values expert and has presented to SITE before. You might recognize him. He lives in Vancouver, Canada. One of the most interesting things about David is that he loves collecting contemporary art, which is kind of cool. He decided he didn't want to own a car and he was going to take the money that he saved from owning his car and put that towards his fabulous art collection. So with that, I'll let David take it away.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's always fun to have a global audience. You don't ever know what to say to begin with. I have a couple quick buttons I have to push just to make sure I'm doing everything properly. I put my timer on, which you're all going to appreciate. You'll find out in a moment, if you haven't heard me speak before, why a timer is a very good thing for everyone involved. And then I have to click over here in order to make this thing work. I think we're set to go. So it's my job to introduce you to some ideas, some research that's going to help connect the dots between luxury travelers specifically, but I'm calling that in a much larger sense, that the luxury traveler and the incentive traveler are pretty much the same thing, because nobody sends people on an incentive travel experience to stay at the motor lodge on the side of the highway. So luxury traveler value graphics, what people who are luxury travelers actually care about, what gets them excited, and then what in those profiles from our research connects to what New Zealand has to offer. So let's see where we go with this. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about value graphics and about this research in case you haven't heard me speak at one of the SITE events before. And then we're going to dwell a little bit on the value graphics for luxury travelers, which if you were at SITE Classic, you would have seen me share this data there. And then I'm also, as a special treat, pulled the data from our global database on the value graphics, the things that are most important in life to the people of New Zealand. So we can start to see where things compare and contrast. It's a really fascinating set of data. So here we go. I've said the word data about 6 times. Please don't fall asleep on me. I promise you I'm going to keep this exciting and fun. So first slide I want to show you is this, because it's a great way to begin thinking about value graphics and about values as a way to understand why people do everything that they do. And it's this, that every single organization on earth, regardless of size, regardless of location, regardless of industry sector, we're all here trying to do the same thing. And that's just to get some people to do something we'd like them to do. Isn't that kind of a lovely unifying thought when you stop and think about it for a moment, that the smallest company, the smallest entrepreneurial startup to the largest organizations on earth, we're all focused on exactly this same task. How do we get some people to do something that we'd like them to do? So it kind of begs the question, how do people decide to do something? Got to understand that if we're going to get groups of people to do something we'd like them to do. So we started our research by diving deep into the worlds of human behavior science. I'm going to just skip across the top here of a few different fields that fall under that umbrella of human behavior so that we see what they have to say about how we get groups of people to do the things we'd like them to do. Let's start with neuroscience. If you talk to a neurologist, they will tell you that the prefrontal cortex of your brain, you can also refer to it as the CEO of your brain. Your prefrontal cortex's job is to take all the incoming data that you encounter in the course of the rituals of your daily existence, all the sights and sounds and smells and everything that comes into your brain goes to the prefrontal cortex. And your CEO, the prefrontal cortex, job is to sort it out and say, okay, well, how are we going to react? What do we do? How am I going to boss the rest of this system that I'm in charge of around? And your prefrontal cortex only uses one set of filters to figure this out, and that's your values, what you care about most, which kind of makes sense, right? I mean, if family is the most important value in your system, in your whole life, something comes along that's going to be great for your family, you're going to want that thing. You're going to run towards that thing. That thing's going to make you feel great. But if something comes along that might not be good for your family, you're going to run away from that thing. And it's going to fill you with anxiety until you get far away from that thing. And we don't even know we're doing this sometimes. You'll be standing in the grocery store going, okay, 2 cans of soup. Which is the can of soup that I really want to buy here? If family's most important thing in your life, somehow, even at a subconscious level, you're going to choose the one that has something to do with being good for your family. You might not even know you're doing it. Let's talk about psychologists. Psychologists, they talk about a thing called confirmation bias. There's all kinds of other stuff in the field of psychology that points in the same direction, but confirmation bias is just a fancy term for how people, when they're answering questions on a survey, will say yes to anything that they already believe to be true and that's important to them. And if we're trying to do a good survey, we have to avoid confirmation bias in the way we design the questions, or else we're going to get really bad answers because people just say yes if it aligns with their values. But what if we knew what their values were in advance so that we were able to use that as a way to get groups of people to do the things we'd like them to do? That would be a pretty useful tool. So let's talk about sociology. Our research, our global database, I'm going to introduce you to in a couple minutes here. We're a sociological data set. So we're firmly rooted in the world of sociology. What sociologists study is groups of people and why this group decided to do this thing and this other group here decided to do this other thing instead. And the answers always comes down to, what do these people care about? This group of people cared about this stuff. They valued these things, so they decided to go that direction. This other group of people valued this other stuff more, so they made a different decision and they went in that direction. So the point for this slide and what I'd like you to think about when it comes to human behavior and how we get those groups of people to do the things we want them to do is to remember this one line: what we value determines what we do. Everything we do, whether we know it's happening or not, everything that every human being will ever do from this point forward will be because of something they value. So that's a cool thing to know, because what we're trying to do is get people to do the things we'd like them to do. Now we know how to do that, but here's the problem. There wasn't a way to figure out how groups of people make these decisions together. What values are triggering behaviors for an entire group? Psychologists have it pretty easy. They can sit you down and give you an MMPI inventory or a Myers-Briggs test, and they can figure out what your individual values are, one person at a time. And then they can talk to you about getting your values aligned with your life, and so that you become a happy person. But for an entire group of people, how do we know what values come into play? That was the question that was at the beginning of the Value Graphics project. So we figured out a way to do this. We had to do 600,000 surveys around the world in 152 languages. And we're now built this data set, the world's first global data set, database of what everybody on the planet cares about and what our shared human values are. And so now we know that there's only 56 things. Any Douglas Adams fans out there, remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? He was wrong. The answer to life is 56. There's only 56 things that control what every human being does. So now it's a fairly simple piece of math, right? We just have to understand which of those 56 things are in play for the group of people that we want to try and get to do the thing we'd like them to do. So let's put this in a little bit of context. We still need, if we're going to talk about a target audience and influencing them and engaging them and motivating them, we still need to know their demographics. Demographics are a useful thing, whether people are 18 to 24, 25 to 36, they're male, they're female, how wealthy they are, all that kind of stuff. But the problem is demographics have been used for far too long now as a way to think we know who those people are. And that's wrong. All we know about a group of people when we describe them demographically is their demographics. You can't say that just because people are Generation X or millennials or male or female, that they're all the same. It makes no sense when you think about it. Let's talk about age as just one example. All baby boomers are the same. Well, it's nonsense. Just say that out loud. It sounds ridiculous. And yet we sit in our boardrooms and we go, my target audience is baby boomers, as if that somehow helps us understand what we need to do next. It doesn't. It just helps us put a fence around a group of people. Psychographics, on the other hand, are another useful tool. Psychographics are a record of what people have done so far. So if we talk about it in terms of incentive travel, for example, how many incentive travel trips has this group of people been on before? How many times have they flown long distances to go to an incentive travel experience? Um, all kinds of other things you might end up knowing about them psychographically, about past behaviors and how did they feel about that trip and what kind of emotions came up. So now you know some things demographically about this group, and psychographically you have a description and a record of past activities. But if our goal, as we've established, is to get some people to do something we want them to do, we also need to know their value graphics, because that's how you know what to say, how to engage them, and how to get those folks to do the things you'd like them to do. So you need all three. That's why there's a stool here. It's a three-legged stool. You need to have all three legs, or else you're on pretty shaky ground if you're going to start making decisions about how to get a group of people to do the things you'd like them to do. All right, I'm going to share some data, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of a disclaimer before I do, that this is just the very, very tip of this iceberg of information that we have on these audiences that I'm going to share, and what's the most important thing in their life, so that you know how to get them to do the things you want them to do. Now, if you want more, you can reach out and find us on LinkedIn, and we're happy to share some more information about either of these audiences if it's intriguing to you. That's a real invitation. I mean that. Just get a hold of us, and we're happy to share this stuff. It's why we do these things, is so that we can share them in venues like this and with people who are interested. So let's take a look at the first chart that I've pulled for you. So this is the values. Remember, there's 56 things that could be on this list. And these are the top 10 things that are most important to luxury travelers from the United States of America. These are the top 10 ways that they make decisions about what they're going to do next. Now, there's also 3 in blue here. Those are the togetherness values. We don't count those in the top 10 because they always show up in every profile we do. And this is one of the most lovely findings from those 600,000 surveys around the world, that no matter who we're talking about, whether it's B2B, B2C, we're talking to crazy AI cloud engineers as an audience, or Wall Street investors, or people who donate to a charity, it doesn't matter. There's always some way we want to be with each other. It's why we've all had such a difficult time with the pandemic and isolation and lockdown, because more than anything, all over the world, humans want to be with each other. They want to be together. And so now that the world's starting to open up again, we're all feeling a little bit less anxious than we have been for the last 2 years. For this group, though, luxury travelers, they want to be with each other. Togetherness is important in a certain way. Belongingness, number 1 on the list. Now, it's also number 1 on the list for the entire population of the United States. So it's not that odd to see it up at the top of the list for an audience of people from the United States. It's not always there, but in this case it is. What is a little odd is that family has dropped to the number 3 spot. When we look at audiences across the United States, the entire general population, family's number 2. So this time, for this audience of people, it's fallen a ranking, and experiences are even more important to this audience than they are to the entire population of the United States. Relationships, halfway down, just to stay on the togetherness values there for a moment. Relationships are like friendship light. These are the sort of the people you get to say hi to in the hallway at the office. Again, why we've missed being in offices. The folks you know at the grocery store, the people that you see when you're walking down the street. I sound like a Sesame Street thing. For those of you who know what Sesame Street is, there's a little song about the people that you meet when you're walking down. Anyway, I shouldn't talk about that. Let's stick to the chart. Belonging, family, relationships, those are the most important ways for this group to feel like they're together with each other. So just to talk about that for 2 seconds. If you're trying to get luxury travelers excited about something, you need to talk to them about however this thing is, that whatever this thing is you'd like them to do is going to give them a great sense of belonging. They're going to fit in. They're going to find people just like them. They're going to feel like family. They're going to be part of a big extended family, and they're going to have great new relationships as a result of doing this thing. If you just said those 3 things, you'd be well on your way to getting this group of people, luxury travelers, to do the things you'd like them to do. Okay, that's enough about that. We're going to come back and look at some of these other values in a moment. But right now I want to show you this. This is the general population of New Zealand. This is everybody in New Zealand. Look where family is, right back up at the top. 92% of the population of New Zealand, family's the number 1 most important thing in their life. then belonging, but only by a point. So those two are kind of interchangeable. The idea of fitting in and being part of something bigger, and also being part of the family and fitting, and my family needs to benefit from things. Those are two incredibly powerful values if you want to try and get everybody in New Zealand to get excited about something that you're going to do. But also in the context of what we're talking about today, if you're trying to convince or to talk to people who are all about incentive travel and get them excited about New Zealand, you need to point out to them that when they land there, they're going to get all kinds of family and belonging going on, because that's everybody they meet is going to be all about that same stuff. And we saw how important it is to luxury travelers. So starting to connect those dots as you talk about New Zealand as a destination and connecting those dots for the luxury travelers, that's what this is all about, is finding those pieces of connective tissue, talking about things in that way, and that'll get folks to do the things that you'd like them to do. All right, I feel like I'm skipping past this quickly, but it's because I'm going to get to an even more interesting slide. Look at this. When we put them side by side, I hope you can see all these little dots. These are the luxury travelers and the general population of New Zealand on the same chart. You can see the teal dots are the general population of New Zealand. There's a bunch of them here that are just New Zealand. That's cool. There's a bunch that are just luxury travelers where there's only a white dot showing up. That's fine. But look at all the crossover. If you're talking to a group of people who see themselves as luxury travelers and you're trying to tell them that New Zealand's an amazing place to go, there's so much connective tissue here. It's fantastic. You could talk about belonging, about experiences, about family, about personal growth, basic needs, all those amazing relationships you're going to have once you come and visit this amazing country, health and well-being, being healthy and well, and just feeling like everything I'm doing is heading in the right direction on that front. And loyalty. There's some really lovely things here that both of these audiences have in common. So let's just do a little fun exercise. Think of that value graphic chart I just showed you as a kind of a toolbox. If you're trying to draw some connective tissue between these two audiences and talk to them about something and get them to do the things you'd like them to do, think the things you'd like them to think, feel the way you'd like them to feel, you can just choose the ones that are going to be most useful. So today, these are the ones that I've chosen that are going to be most useful. Let's look at experiences. I'm going to talk very quickly here about what each of these values mean, because you're going to then hear from my friend Leonie, who's going to talk to you about how these values manifest themselves in New Zealand in wonderful, wonderful ways. So experiences, both groups like this stuff. Both groups are driven by experiences. Remember, for the luxury travelers, even more important than some of the values we tend to normally see at the top of the chart. Experience-driven people are always looking for something fun and different and interesting that they haven't done before. We see in our data different kinds of experience-driven people. Some of them like them close and safe and repeating. Some of them like them crazy and out there, and I don't want to do the same thing twice. But they're always thinking to themselves, is this decision I'm about to make going to improve the quality and quantity of experiences that I'm chasing all day long in everything that I do? Personal growth. These people are incredibly driven on both sides of this equation, the luxury travelers, and they're going to find their counterparts when they visit New Zealand, people who just want to be better. I want to be a better version of myself tomorrow than I am today. I want to learn new things. I want to try new stuff. I want to pick up new skills. I want to always be getting better and better and better. Now we have health and well-being. It's an interesting value. Of the 56 values that could be driving decisions by these luxury travelers, this is one of them. It's very close to the top of the chart, very important. Health and well-being means different things to different people. And you're all sitting there thinking about this in your own context of what that means. It's important to remember there's a ton of different ways that you can think about health and well-being. So for example, my friend Josh, who I work with very closely, and I think you can see him smiling at you on the screen right now. Josh believes that health and well-being is about running a marathon at least once every 3 or 4 months. He likes to climb mountains. He likes to be out in the woods. He likes to go to the gym. He's constantly thinking about how can I be more healthy and well today? Now, I have other friends whose names I won't mention because it might embarrass them. For them, being healthy and well is just not drinking 2 bottles of wine every night, but drinking only 1 with dinner every night. And as far as they're concerned, a 1 bottle day, that's a really healthy and well day. And both are valid. From a sociological perspective, I don't really care how you think health and well-being manifests. What I care about is that you're using that as a filter to decide whether something's good for you and you're going to get it and going to go do that thing or not. And so the point I'm making here is that for folks in the luxury travel market, it's a huge motivator, and they're going to find other people when they get to New Zealand who are just like them, which is going to give them more of that sense of belonging that they're looking for. And lastly, loyalty. Loyalty is a really amazing value, and I love seeing it show up. Of all the different 56 things that could be driving people forward, it's great to see this one, because basically people who are driven by loyalty will be loyal to a fault, but only when you've proven that you're worthy of loyalty. You have to be loyal first, and then they'll be loyal to you. So loyalty showing up here is telling us stuff about the people of New Zealand and about how they're going to treat visitors and how you're going to feel like you fit in when you get there, and about how important that is to luxury travelers. So connecting the dots around these 4 core human values that, remember, these drive all the decisions and emotions and behaviors of everybody in this target audience that we're talking about, which is luxury travelers, which is incentive travel participants. Now I'm going to throw the ball over to my friend Leonie to fill in some of the blanks specifically about New Zealand here. And I get to introduce her. Leonie is one of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. She's been with Tourism New Zealand for 10 years now. That's how devoted and dedicated she is to this part of the world. It's 4 a.m. in the morning for her right now. So give her a big round of applause just for that. That's an accomplishment. I asked her a few things about what makes her so excited to be in New Zealand and doing this job. And she told me a couple of things. One is that she gets to drink a lot of New Zealand wine because it's her job. She has to, it's New Zealand wine. It's a really big, important part of her life. So she's all about that. She golfs, likes it, but her husband says she shouldn't bother. So poor Leonie. I mean, we need to all prop her up on that front. This is my favorite story about Leonie. Leonie's traveled all over the world. She's worked all over the world. But whenever she gets home to New Zealand, she likes to stand in her backyard and just look up at the big, big blue sky. I like the idea of her going out after she's finished talking to us and doing that this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, here is Leonie Ashford.
Thanks so much, David. Just checking I'm on screen. I can still see David there. Okay, great. I'm on screen. So thanks for the great introduction. Hello, everybody, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you today. I'd also like to mention that my colleague, Natalie Fulton, is on the call. So Natalie joined our team in Los Angeles 2 weeks back. Normally, she'd be the person talking with her, but having only been with us for a couple of weeks, we thought that I would take over this evening, and she'll be your main contact for all insights, support, planning, or when you're looking at New Zealand as a destination. And if you're attending IMEX, Natalie will be there as well. She'll be on the 100% Pure New Zealand stand. So today we'll open the New Zealand proceedings with a karakia. In New Zealand, as part of our Indigenous culture Maori, this is a common way of opening a discussion. It's with a blessing or a prayer. We do this to increase the spiritual goodwill of the gathering, and we hope that the likelihood of a favourable outcome, and it'll help everybody to connect and focus our attendees. So Josh, over to you.
Kia ora. Nau mai, hara mai, welcome. Welcome to this with Tourism New Zealand with Manaakitanga Aotearoa. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to learn about our country, and we look forward to seeing all of our industry and trade friends back in New Zealand, back in Aotearoa as soon as possible. So have a great day. My job here today is very simple. I'm here to start our hui as we would here in Aotearoa with a blessing, and then you can get underway. So if I could just ask everyone just to bow their heads, me no tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ana, te ata kura, he tio, he hoka, he hauhu, a ti hei mauri ora. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and again, we look forward to seeing you and your clients back in Aotearoa, New Zealand very, very soon. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So, unless you speak Maori, the actual wording in the karakia is unknown to you. However, the spiritual connection that you encounter in New Zealand is very important. And as David's work also identifies, the desire for belonging and spirituality is strong. So, there are two words that you heard in that karakia. First, kia ora, and you'll hear a lot more about this later. Kia ora is a warm and welcoming greeting you'll hear throughout New Zealand. And secondly, Aotearoa. This is the name for New Zealand, and this can be translated as the land of the long white cloud. So, 6 quick facts about New Zealand. We're an island country in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. We have 2 main islands. They're called the North Island and the South Island. As a country, we're approximately the same size as the United Kingdom, and the distance to the US is 12,000 kilometres or 7,500 miles. If you're taking a flight from the west coast of the US to Auckland, which is our largest city, that'll take you about 13 hours. Now, we have a multicultural population, including descendants from the first Europeans who arrived in New Zealand about 200 years ago, plus our Maori and our Indigenous people, and a significant Pacific population. We have communities from across Asia and a growing number of new arrivals from all parts of the world. In total, we are 5.1 million people, and the main language spoken is English. So I've shared with you 2 new words, kia ora and Aotearoa. Now we'll share some examples of how our Maori culture and values are embedded throughout our communities and how they are part of the experiences you and your guests will have when you visit New Zealand. We'll start with manaakitanga. Manaakitanga is a very important value for us. It's about acknowledging the presence, the prestige or spiritual power of the other person. We treat our guests as having equal or greater importance to ourselves through the expression of hospitality, generosity, and mutual respect. In doing so, all parties are elevated, their status is enhanced, and you certainly build that unity with other people, and there's an act of giving in there. So when planning your time in New Zealand, we will ensure that our manaakitanga, our warm welcome, our friendly hospitality, and the respect will unite us together. We may be from different backgrounds and cultures, but manaakitanga is a feeling that we share. So formally, with manaakitanga, you could start an event with a Maori pōwhiri or a ceremonial welcome. So this includes a formal speech, a song, a gift, the shaking of hands, and the sharing of food, and we call food kai. If you're doing this informally, you'll find that when traveling in New Zealand, people will be going out of their way to help. That's not just giving you directions. It's about those home-baked cookies when you get to your accommodation in the evening. It's about hugging the driver or the tour operator at the end of the time together because you've formed such a great bond. So David spoke of experience being one of the key values, and we recognize that you can experience a great activity or a place anywhere. What we share is a unique experience with authentic connection to our people. Your time will not just be memorable, it will be meaningful. When you leave New Zealand, we know that you'll take experiences with you. You'll maybe have a new sense of what's important to you. You'll certainly have loyalty matters. And for us, as David mentioned, it's family first. Our word for family is whānau. This does not just apply to your immediate household or relatives. It includes physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. We often say that visitors to our country arrive as strangers and leave as whānau. Now, let's have some of my whānau connect with you. Josh, over to you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
When I say kia ora to somebody, it's an obvious acknowledgement to them. It is the hello for us in Māori.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora. It's friendly. You've got no enemies here.
It's really important to acknowledge a person. By using the word kia ora, we acknowledge not just them, but everything about them. Where they come from, who they come from. And that's a big one, who they come from.
Kia ora, auntie. Kia ora, uncle. Kia ora, kia koe, bro.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I'm saying it on behalf of my family, past and present, in the community, welcoming you.
When she gets known, the phrases vary, the context varies, but the words are still the same.
Hey, kia ora, welcome on board.
We have a saying, he iti te kupu, nui te kōrero. And what they're saying is, although the word is only small, the meaning is great. You know, it's massive.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora to us means good health. As Māori, when we're born as kaitiaki. And kaitiaki means guardian. And we're guardians of the whenua, of the land, and guardians of people. That's the manaakitanga that you're going to give to the people. Manaakitanga means to be looked after. Our thing is to go above and beyond of looking after people, looking after the land.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
We don't get up and say what street we come from. We talk about our mountains, we talk about our rivers, our oceans. The world view we have, the land and everything upon it is our older sibling. For us, that's why we have so much respect for the land, for nature. That's why all our designs come from nature. It's that whole cycle, you know, it's that whole life force, that mauri, that order.
Kia ora is such a beautiful word. It's got such a wonderful meaning.
It comes from the heart. It's not just lip service, no matter who says it.
Have a go, be brave, say the word kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Great. If you visited the New Zealand booth at IMEX in 2019, you'll recall one of those characters featured in our video. That's Cuts. He's a really big guy and his full face moko is very memorable. So another value, kaitiakitanga, sorry, early in the morning. And this empowers our visitors with a sense of guardianship and protection for our land. This also addresses sustainability. In a country where much of our appeal is about our natural beauty and landscapes, protecting these for future generations is so important. We've got many experiences that care for our land. One of these, say a good example, is the Hawke's Bay eco-cultural programs. They bring together the hunter-gathering, contemporary Maori cuisine. The experience journeys through our ancestral mountains, lands and waters, and with that you're sharing stories and local history with people. You'll learn about traditional Maori food gathering and fishing practices, finishing with a feast that you catch yourself. And during your time in the Hawke's Bay, you will finish by planting a native seedling tree. This will add to the already 7,500 native trees planted as part of a plan to revitalise the local ecosystem in the area. The program is an initiative that is actually managed by our local iwi or our local tribe. Another example in the South Island is a town called Kaikoura. Now, Kaikoura is steeped in Maori culture, even down to its name. Kaikoura translate to eat crayfish, or you may realise that's eat lobster, which is the town's culinary speciality and can be bought fresh and locally. So the area itself has some of the best whale and dolphin and sea spotting in the world. And to protect this for our future generations, Kaikoura Whale Watch includes cultural stories and uses modified catamarans that absolutely minimise the underwater noise. Each time they go out, they keep detailed records which identify every whale that they see, its location, and any unusual behaviour. This is all contributing to the ongoing scientific research into the marine life in the area. So, David spoke earlier about health and well-being. This is another experience that you will take home from your visit. For us, the people, the land, the sea, and all living things are as one, and our health and well-being is interconnected and reliant on them all. The global health crisis of the last 20 months has made us all think about maintaining maintaining and enhancing our personal health and well-being more than ever. Obviously, in New Zealand, our food and our beverage is sourced locally. We make the most of the natural produce, and we go a long way to following what we call the paddock to the plate process. And of course, we have a large range of health spas. We take advantage of the natural geothermal area, Rotorua. We use this mineral-rich water and healing mud in the soothing pools and spas to really ensure that you get those great health benefits with your groups. So let me tell you about a promise. 7 of our major tourism organisations have come together to make a commitment to our future. We have created a promise. We call this the Te Aki Promise, an initiative to help all travellers to New Zealand care for place, people, and culture. We encourage you and all your guests in New Zealand to make the Te Aki Promise. The pledge is simple. While travelling in New Zealand, I will care for land, sea, and nature, treading lightly and leaving no trace. I will travel safely, showing care and consideration for all. I will respect culture, travelling with an open heart and an open mind. And a key part of this promise is that we can provide support for you and your programs to ensure that you leave long-lasting impacts when you're here. One of these initiatives is a partnership that we have with Trees That Count. This is a conservation charity that plants native trees on behalf of our international visitors. This allows them to leave a long-lasting legacy, literally putting down roots and contributing to New Zealand's flora and fauna for future generations, as well as supporting efforts to address climate change by removing CO2 from the atmosphere. These examples all contribute to our wider emphasis on sustainability and understanding of people's place in the world, their well-being, and how we can work to do things better. Now, we'll share a brief video that highlights the Te Aki Promise. Josh.
Ko Aotearoa tō tātou ukaupō.
New Zealand is our home. It is precious, and everyone who lives and travels here has a responsibility to look after it.
Te Aki means to care for people and place. The Te Aki Promise is a commitment to care for New Zealand, for now and for future generations.
To care for land, sea and nature, treading lightly and leaving no trace.
To travel safely, showing care and consideration for all.
To respect culture, travelling with an open heart and mind.
While travelling in New Zealand, follow the Te Aki Promise. Act as a guardian.
Protect and preserve our home.
Help us care for New Zealand.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And as you've heard, New Zealand encourages our visitors to come on a journey of discovery. We offer a huge range of experiences. Now, if you wish to incorporate a cultural performance into the program, you'll find that this will often encourage new perspectives and wider insights for your attendees. For example, the haka, which many of you may have heard of, was made world famous by New Zealand's All Blacks rugby team. This isn't just a war dance. It's designed to help build unity, purpose, and togetherness within teams. We have haka experts here in New Zealand who can compose and choreograph a haka specifically for your organisation, representing your goals and values. Another activity linked to our cultural history is paddling the mighty waka, a traditional carved multi-person canoe. This is not just a fun activity and a way to get out on the water. It's the embodiment of teamwork and ensuring that everybody is quite literally pulling in the same direction. And so, as you've heard, New Zealand is in a position of drawing on our Indigenous culture that shape our values, and these values are definitely mirrored and linked to the work that David's described in the way the world is looking right now. So, just before we finish and show you our last video, here are some key words. Kia ora from Aotearoa. Hello from New Zealand. Manaakitanga. It's about acknowledging the presence, prestige, or spiritual power of the other person. Whānau, our family. Arrive as a visitor and leave as whānau. Kaitiakitanga, a strong emphasis on respect for the natural environment. And of course, the Tiaki promise. Care for our land, sea and nature. Travel safely, showing care, respect, and culture. Finally, New Zealand is a destination where you can see beautiful scenery and do amazing activities, but you'll also make enriching connections, get some new perspectives and opportunities to learn and grow. We'd love to see you in New Zealand and show you more. One final quick video, Josh. Great, thank you. That's it. So,
thanks, Leonie. Oh, I need to go to New Zealand after watching that video. So we have a little bit of time left for some Q&A. So I've got a few questions that have come in on the chat. This one's for David from Value Graphics. Do our values change with events that happen that are out of our control, like the pandemic?
Oh, such a good question. Wow, I'm getting some big feedback from some rare, like something's going. Okay, good, we're good. Yeah, actually, here's the answer to that question. No, our values don't change, which is really a fascinating thing when you think about it. No matter what happens in our lives, our values stay the same. The way we react to outside external influences will change for sure. Here's an example. Going into the pandemic and isolation, if family was one of the most important values in your life, then you tripled down on family. You started calling your mom every 10 minutes. You were worried about everybody in your family and wondering what's going on and just tried to figure out how to have a Zoom meeting every day and just wanted to have more family. But if you went into isolation and pandemic and lockdown and family wasn't your most important value, let's say personal growth, because it's up on the screen here. Let's say personal growth was your most important value. You'd be tripling down on personal growth. Like, how do I continue growing and becoming a better version of myself? Gee, I'm going to be locked up for a year. Maybe I'll learn to speak a new language. Maybe I'll finally figure out how to balance my checkbook. Maybe I'll just like trying to find ways to carry on with your mission in life of being a better version of yourself every day. You didn't suddenly start worrying about your family. If it wasn't a value going in, it didn't suddenly become a value. Or we get our values in our late childhood and early adolescence, and then they're yours for life. I often say to people, we're not an octopus. You don't get to chop off a value and grow a new one later on just because something's happening in the world around you. So after the pandemic and after lockdown, whatever your behaviors have been as a result of those values that you have in your makeup, you will change those behaviors again. You'll stop worrying about your mom and calling her every 20 minutes, and you won't need the family Zoom so much, but that value will still be there. You'll just behave in a different way because the external environment has changed. So short answer to the question, no, values stay the same. And so these values we've shared today, if people are planning on using these as a way to talk about the incentive travel experiences that they'd like to put together in New Zealand or for anywhere, they can be confident that they aren't going to change over the course of time. We had a really cool question coming in the Q&A, and I promised Sarah, who asked the question, that I'd answer it. Can I jump over there? Can I take over and suggest that's what
Sure.
we do?
Yeah.
She wanted to know why the data that we shared was only focused on USA travelers, and do we have it for global audiences? And the answer is yes. We have the same data for 180 countries around the world, for 9 different regions of the world. We were only showing the US today because we saw that a number of people who'd signed up were US based. I don't know, maybe we are too US centric. Just for the record, I'm Canadian, so this is not about me being an American and saying we're going to only show you American stuff. But Sarah, if you're interested in a specific region of the world, I'd be happy to share that data with you. And the same goes true for anybody else who's listening today. If you are looking at another region and you'd like to see the same data, you just reach out to us on LinkedIn or go to valuegraphics.com, and we'll be happy to give you whatever you need to know.
Great. Good answer. Leonie, I've got one for you. I guess nobody knows the answer to this question, but when do you foresee travel coming back to New Zealand?
Right. So we have a plan. We have planned to reconnect with the world in 2022. So I would suggest that the best time to look at planning those visits to New Zealand would be from the second half of next year, which is ideal because that then takes you through into our warmer months, into our summer. Right now, October is our spring, so we're moving into summer. So yeah, 2022, we look forward to welcoming you back to New Zealand.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Okay, last question of the day, Leonie, this is also for you. With an unlimited budget, what would be the most unique experience a group could do in New Zealand?
Wow, gosh, there's so much, and I really didn't even touch on a lot of our amazing scenery and places to visit in New Zealand, because I really did focus on our values and how they connect through our history and our culture. But one of the really unique experiences that you can have in New Zealand is we are Middle Earth. We are the home of Lord of the Rings. The movies, the trilogy was all filmed in New Zealand. And we have a great place called Hobbiton, which is in the centre of our North Island. So Hobbiton, I would say, would be an ideal location with a great budget to come in and dress like a hobbit and eat and drink and party like a hobbit. If you've seen the movies, you'll know what that means. So that would be my suggestion as a unique place in New Zealand that you won't get anywhere else in the world.
I love that. That means we all get to be there and hold up our, like, here, let's just do it right now. Ready? One ring to rule them all. There's a good line from the movie. We all get to say that out loud.
Yeah.
I have a question for Leonie. Can I jump in again?
Sure.
Okay, Leonie, you said that, what's the name of the dance that?
The haka.
The haka. And you said that there are people who will create one specific to an organization's values. That, of course, triggered a bell for me.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely there are. Because the All Blacks, our rugby team, are probably one of the icons of New Zealand that's recognised all over the world. So when people see the haka, they think it's just purely a war dance. They think it's just a challenge, but it's not. There's much more history to it. There's much more of bringing that team together, having them inspired to be working together to go forward, forward into the battle of the game. But yes, we've got teams, and certainly in Rotorua, part of our New Zealand Maori Arts and Crafts Institute. Those are the guys that we've worked with closely, but yes, there are people that will help with that.
I want to talk to you some more about this offline, because as a values-driven organization, I think it would be amazing for us to have our own haka. Maybe we need to commission a group to make one for us, and then can just know that we've done that and share that with the world. I think that would be a very cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I think Josh will have to learn how to do that because he's Australian.
Yeah, well, make Josh do it. We'll make him an honorary New Zealander for the duration. That's a fascinating thing. I mean, I'm imagining as an incentive travel group to come in. I mean, we all know a big part of why you want to do incentive travel experiences in the first place is to build team and to make people feel like they're with each other. I'll tell you a funny little story because I'm on a ramble and we got 2 minutes left here. Long time ago, I got really involved with a ballet company here in Vancouver, where I live, Ballet BC. And because I was really interested, I thought I should try this. So I went to one class that's very specifically for people who only want to do one class, so they can say they've tried it, because I knew I wasn't going to be going back for more. Hardest thing I ever did. It was definitely very hard physically, but the hardest part of it was being willing in front of all these other people to let my guard down and not worry about what I look like or how other people were thinking about me, and just participate in this group activity. Now I can only imagine that if it was with a group of people that I work with closely all the time, and we're achievers, we're there in an incentive travel experience, and to be able to let your guard down with each other and learn how to do a haka together that reflects the values of the organization we're part of. What a powerfully moving experience that would be. I don't know the incentive travel business very well, but I'm telling anybody who's listening today, if you go to New Zealand, you don't do that, you're being silly. That's a thing you have to do for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I like it. And good for you for trying ballet.
Oh my gosh, it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. But I urge everybody to go and do something that you're terrible at and is embarrassing at least once a week. It's a very good, humbling experience.
Absolutely. Good advice. Well, any final comments? I think we're out of time, and
cool.
No, I'd just like to say thank you so much for the opportunity, and we really do look forward to welcoming everybody to New Zealand. And I know Natalie put something in the chat to say she's looking forward to seeing people at IMEX and meeting you over the next 12 months in the US and bringing you to New Zealand.
Absolutely. We're speaking at IMEX as well. We're going to be there. So if you come and listen to me talk, we'll be sharing some really cool information there about how do we get people to go back to live events from a study we did specifically for IMEX. So come say hi, come say hi, and yeah, come say hi.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, have a wonderful day or evening, depending on where you are. And we'll see you all soon.
Great.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.